Welcome to you at home and those of you here at the table this week. According to a new public opinion poll printed in the Albuquerque Journal this week, crime and education are the top issues for voters headed into the midterm elections. Homelessness and the economy also rank as high priorities. And here to break it all down for us this week are our line opinion panelists, starting with Tom Garrity of the Garrity Group PR. Sophie Martin's with us. She's an attorney. Adrian Carver, Executive Director of Equality New Mexico, is back with us. And Senator Mark Boitano, former New Mexico State Senator. Thanks for coming in, Senator. Now, tell me, start with you. Were you surprised that the economy and jobs are still not as high on the list as we sometimes talk at the table here? And I must say, since I got you right here, you've made a strong personal case about this over the past couple, 3, 4, 5 years, that the economy is really where we should be putting our thoughts and efforts and hearts. Yeah. Were you surprised by some of these results?
Clearly, I need to change my talking points because the rest of New Mexico is not catching on. But yeah, the economy, I was really surprised to see that wasn't quite as front and center. But maybe because there's a certain level of acceptance and people have a greater threat, perhaps with the whole increase of crime. And of course, it didn't hurt this particular case that the FBI came out with their ratings indicating that crime is not just a bad issue, but it's even worse than it was in the previous year. So, and I also thought that the geography, we were talking a little bit about this off camera before we started, is that in the Las Cruces area, not quite as big of a threat as opposed to the Albuquerque area. And I have to wonder if that has to do something with the media markets. Not that the media, is behind this. Crime is crime, and the FBI has definitely backed that up. But I wonder what the media coverage is like on crime issues in El Paso, which really significantly impacts that southern New Mexico market.
That's an interesting point.
And El Paso is actually one of the safest cities in the country. And so that I'm just, we're just spitballing this here, but I think that's a really interesting idea.
Yeah, so it's so I was interested to see how crime was high. Public education, I thought this was fascinating. I know we're going to be chatting a little bit about the Martinez legacy, but with as much progress that has been made, quote unquote, in public education, it is still a very high level of a very serious problem.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I'm glad you brought that up. I want to circle back to that. And Adrian, crime, we mentioned 78% of folks. Tom mentioned the geography. It seemed like an across-the-board deal. What does that mean for the folks running for governor right now? Do you know what I mean? Do they have literally their marching orders right now that just talk about these two things, and this is what people are talking about?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that New Mexicans are unhappy with what has been happening over the last 8 years, couple generations. The polls are showing it, right? That I think we're going to see, a lot of the national mood coming into the electorate in this election, and
it already is.
Our governor candidates are going to have to tackle these big issues. But crime, I think our communities know that crime is a symptom of the larger issue, and that for us to be able to tackle the crime issue, we really need to be able to tackle the education and these basic needs that New Mexicans are just. They're just crying out for, and so I think if the governor's candidates want to fix the crime issue, they're going to have to look at the root causes.
That's right. Senator, as you read the article, nearly 7 out of 10 New Mexicans polled, 68%. Education, as Adrian just pointed out, was the issue, and that's all well and good, and we all pretty much were not surprised by that, I suppose. But again, for the candidates, how do you change the language if you read this kind of thing and it's that overwhelming? Does that change your tactic completely as a candidate at this point?
Well, I mean, if those are the issues people are concerned about, you need to formulate policy and a campaign around those issues. I mean, I don't think there's any arguing that.
Right.
Doesn't surprise me crime is a huge issue because it's not just the statistics, right? We're 84% higher than the national average, and incidents of violent crime, our property crime's up 50% last couple of years. People are seeing it in their neighborhoods. That's the difference. I live up, Comanche between Wyoming and Eubank. We've had vehicle crimes in my home 4 times in the last couple of years. So all around town, it used to be better neighborhoods and, neighborhoods that had less crime. Everybody's seeing it, so they're seeing it. Even to the point where in my real estate business, I know over 25 years worked with 1,500 clients. I've had clients recently tell me I'm not moving to Albuquerque because of the crime. So if households are making that decision, what about business entities too? Evaluating 3 or 4 cities, they come in, they say, I'm concerned about crime, I'm not moving here. You know, and as Adrian mentioned too, you know, education doesn't surprise me, relationship between education and crime, but there's been a lot of publicity from, you know, the teachers unions about the teacher accountability system, their unhappiness. And from, you know, schools about the accountability system, A to F. 32 pages to understand the A to F accountability system. So on the one hand, I am a big fan of accountability, but you need to make it simple enough that the professionals understand it.
That's a good point there. You know, Sophie, I want to ask about if there's a congressional side to this, if people running for Congress can touch on this crime thing. But when you consider 96% of those polled viewed crime as a, quote, very serious or somewhat serious problem, in 2016, it was only 62%. There's like this huge understanding jump now, it seems, over the past few years about what's happened.
I think a couple things have happened. And we need to remember that these polls are relative in terms of how they gather information. So as one topic recedes in terms of importance, others will naturally sort of bubble up.
Right.
And I think that part of what's happening with the lessening of concern over economic issues is that nationally, if you're watching national news, the message is our economy has improved, unemployment is dramatically down, et cetera.
Right.
Locally, we are certainly in New Mexico better off than we were 2 years ago, 3 years ago, et cetera. Our improvement is there, and so it's relative to our own, you know, our own very bad numbers, 9%, et cetera. We're certainly doing better, and so people might look at both of those messages. It's better, if not awesome, in New Mexico, and it's better nationally, and say, okay, so I think we're headed in an okay direction with the economy.
Right.
However, there is some concern about market correction. Let's not go there.
Sure.
My financial advisor will freak out if I talk about that. Make that sound like I really, maybe I talk to twice a year.
You're rolling in dough.
Right. The person I'm required to talk to, because, yeah. But the crime issue, it's certainly front and center. We see it very frequently in local media, and you know we've heard complaints in the past about how often it shows up in local media as opposed to other stories.
Here a bunch, yeah.
But I think to a certain extent, it rises because, as Mark said, we're seeing it. Whereas we're seeing a little bit less of the economic unemployment problems. It's still bad here, but now education is an evergreen for us.
That's right.
We should
That's
never
right.
be surprised that it's high on
That's
that
right.
list. We are second or last in almost all educational, you know.
It's unavoidable, exactly. Economy at 35%, how we started this thing. Sophie makes a point about how it's been doing a little bit better, and so it tends to do this business. But homelessness came in at 54%.
Thank you. I was just looking at
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Is that inside the crime bubble, or how are? It's hard to parse how people are viewing this. But
You know, I don't think it's necessarily part of the crime bubble. You know, I mean, it stands on its own, and you know, I'm surprised to see so much awareness on this particular issue. You know, typically the lazy answer would be in a open-ended question is, oh well, crime and homelessness, they're kind of bundled together. But you know, with regards to homelessness, 54% viewing it as a very serious problem. You know, hopefully that will generate some changes. What I think is interesting is based on the sitting governor. And that the gubernatorial race is underway, and that the economy has been such a major issue as far as a shortcoming of this particular administration. At least some of the perceptions that people will think that okay, great, economy not as much of an issue this year. Right. And so if the candidate that aligns more with has solutions for crime and public schools and homelessness, which tends to be more of a liberal democratic approach, they will probably do much better because they have more workable solutions that are generally accepted by the public, as opposed to Republicans who are traditionally more aligned with the economy and how can we stir up business. If there's a perception that business is doing better, that's not necessarily better for the Republican candidates.
Interesting point there. Interesting point. Adrian, Research and Polling, of course, conducted this poll, but they also included homelessness for the first time. And you see what happened there. I'm wondering if this should be a standard part of our understanding here. What your thought on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we're going to talk a little bit more about the governor's legacy in a little bit, but the homelessness issue I think is a direct direct result of the decisions that have been made by the governor and the former mayor here in Albuquerque. And it's not surprising at all to see that this is a topic of mind of people. And, you know, to the point of gubernatorial candidates or congressional candidates, you know, I think there's a danger to take the tack that this that this lame duck governor has used to go with a laser focus on increased penalties for crime as the solution for these issues, whether it's crime or homelessness, the economy, penalization in education. You know, I think there's a danger of candidates going down that track, and we've seen where that's gotten us. So I hope that the candidates don't do that.
Yeah, see what happens now. This election season, we are asking candidates about a lot of issues we discussed. We want to make sure to remind you that our first Congressional District Candidate Forum, which aired last week, is available to watch online at NewMexicoPBS.org. And we'll also have an in-depth interview for the race for the 3rd Congressional District, U.S. Senate race, and the governor's race over the next few weeks. There's still a lot more to discuss this week with these line panelists. When we come back, we'll talk about attempts to define Governor Martinez's legacy.